We are in a festive mood as we've got a lot of information for the festival collection and the upcoming collab sets.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update. It's once again Tuesday, which means we have a lot of new news thrown at us, and it's no different this week as well, because we've got card reveals for upcoming festival collection, we got more information and card reveals for the Touken Ranbu collab set, as well as product information for the Monster Strike collab set that comes after that, and on top of that, we got even some extra couple of promo reveals for Aqua Force as well as Mega Conley. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into these new information points and card reveals. I'm going to start off with the card of the day reveals for the upcoming festival collection 2021. Now, for these card reveals, we're going to start off with the two Dragon Empire cards, and keep in mind, in this set, we're going to get two new cards for each nation. So we've seen all the new cards for Dragon Empire as well as Dark States. And one of those cards is this grade 2 for Dragon Empire, Rough Eating Dragon, Hungersaurus. And it has the ability, continues a rearguard circle. During your turn, this unit gets power plus 5k. And if your opponent has a front row rearguard, this unit cannot attack the Vanguard. Now, it's kind of whatever, like it's yet another 15k attacker. Yes, it's an easy 15k attacker without any problem to activate, unlike the 50k attacker they already got where your opponent needs to have 2 or less rearguards. But the issue is that if they have one front row unit, you're basically forced to waste this attack into their unit. Now, on first sight, you think this is Eugene support, but it doesn't fix the issue of the Eugene deck, because if they cannot retire enough cards, you still lose the attack, even though you may generate a bit easier numbers. So I'm not too excited about this particular card. Now, followed up, we've got the cover art unit for Dragon Empire, which is the grade 1 Blazed Maiden Mirin, and it had the 6k body, so we were very interested in the ability. However, the ability leaves things to be desired, as her ability is Other Rearguard Circle. When your unit with the Overdress ability attacks, put this unit into your soul, choose one of your units with the Overdress ability, and it gets power plus 5k until the end of turn. Like, the 5k is nice and all, but it's still kind of underwhelming, and you lose this card for the 5k, which isn't a great trade-off. Yes, you get the soul, and yes, Farina can use the soul to retire a unit, but even if you use this ability, you still need to Persona right one time in the game to even have enough soul to activate another Verena, or you need to use this card twice to have enough soul, which isn't all that great. And the 5k, it's not a big increase if I'm going to be very honest, especially if you look at the numbers the deck already can generate. It's not like we are attacking with 10k or 15k columns. We already are above the 33 and even in 40 and 50k range, so another 5k on top of that is kind of unnecessary. And yes, if you combine this with Valiente, you can restand it so you get double the value, but then this attack still needs to hit in the process. And even if that's the case, you're sacrificing your early aggression because she's a 6k body, meaning you cannot make really good magic numbers in the early game. You cannot make 18k columns with a 10k unit, and you cannot make the 20k column with your 12k Vanguard attacker, as it's only 18k with the 12k of your grade 2 of the ride line. So you're sacrificing your early aggression a bit for a marginal increase of power during the mid to late game. So I'm not really too excited about this particular card. Now, a card that I am kind of excited about is the Dark States grade 2, which is Diabolos Boys Jared, and it has the ability Act on Rearguard Circle. Once per turn, cost Counter plus 1 and Soul plus 1. Choose one of your units with Diabolos in its card name, and it gets power plus 10k until the end of turn. So this can give the power to himself because he has the name, but it can also synergize with Eden, which is your most important on-hit unit. So giving one of your units plus 10k power is actually pretty good. And more importantly, it can be used in the early game. It's not restricted to Final Rush, and Eden's on-hit effect is also in the early game. So if you use these cards together, you can actually put a very powerful turn 2, turn 3 play without relying on Final Rush, which is actually really good. And yes, Counterblast, Soul Blast might sound a bit too expensive, but in some builds, and I personally run this card, you could run the grade 3 order, which costs you Counterblast to get a soul and give a unit plus 10k power. Now, this also gives a 10k power. Yes, it costs a soul, so you lose 2 soul cards in total, but you do get a 10k unit onto the board, and that unit can give a 10k to himself if you don't have Eden. So it gives the deck a bit more playability in the early game as well. But on top of that, it also has the ability Auto Rigor Circle, when this unit attacks, if you are in Final Rush, your opponent cannot intercept until the end of the battle. It's a nice extra addition. Does it do a lot? I'm not so sure. I don't think it matters all too much, but it's nice on top of it. I think this is a very interesting card to think about when building the Bruce deck, as you can now also get some options during the mid and early game of the Bruce deck that can maybe combat the issue that your first couple of turns are a bit vanilla. And even beyond those turns, in the Final Rush turns, this still is really good, as you can give that extra power onto the board that you can then restand, so you get even more value out of it. So I think Jared is definitely a much better card than we've seen for the cards that we got for Dragon Empire. So at the very least, I think this set can actually have some good cards in the mix, because when we first saw the Dragon Empire cards, I was getting skeptical about this particular set, but luckily we'll probably get some playable stuff out of it. But on top of that, we also got another card for Dark States, which is an interesting tech choice. Might not be all too good right now, but can definitely come up in the future. Is this Gear Chronicle Grade 1? Yes, it's a Dark States card, but it's definitely a Gear Chronicle-like unit. Degraded Age Dragon. And its ability is auto. When this unit is placed on a rearguard circle, if your soul has 5 or more cards, discard a card from your hand, choose one of your opponent's back row rearguards and retire it. It's basically a 1-for-1 trade with the condition that you need to have 5 soul and you can only snipe a back row unit. It's not the greatest of cards, and I'm definitely not gonna say it's good and all, but it's a spot removal that might come up in certain situations. I don't think it comes up in these particular builds that we have for Dark States with Bruce and Baron Magnus. Maybe for Baron Magnus a bit, but I'm not too sure about that one. But it's an interesting card to think about if we ever need more removal on the board. Now, with that said, let's go over 2 more cards that were revealed, which are 2 new promos, but more importantly, they are V premium promos, so these aren't overdressed cards. And first off, we've got this Aquaforce Grade 2 card, which has the ability Auto Rearguard Circle. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard. If it's the first battle of the turn, cost count plus 1. Put this unit on the bottom of your deck, look at the top 3 cards from your deck, choose up to 1 card, call to the additional Rearguard Circle, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Now, it's a multi-deck card, but I'm personally not too keen about this one because it's basically an Elgos with extra steps that can actually fill. Because Elgos have the same clause that you need to attack at the first battle, and they both cost a counterblast to restand or get another attack, and both are grade 2 9Ks. Now in this case, yes, you can high roll into a grade 3 or a stronger beater, maybe a Coral Assault, but at the same time you can low roll and get a grade 0 trigger unit, which is only 10k on the additional rearguard circle, so it might not even hit. Whereas Elgos, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get another 14k attacker out at counterblast, which can at least give you the value that you want. Now, you can say maybe this is a good tech choice for Valios. Well, this doesn't really work in Valios, because you need to call to the additional rearguard circles, and I don't know if you know, but Valios doesn't have the Axle marker. So you don't have the Axle circle unless you write into something else, and then go into Valios, which might not be all that consistent. So it's an interesting option for Aquaforce, but I don't think it's gonna be a staple card for the clan, but who knows, I could be wrong on this part. On top of that, we also got something surprisingly, because we've got Gridora support in this V promo card, as we got this Mega Connolly Grade 2 with the ability, although when this unit is placed on the Vanguard Circle or Rearguard Circle, cost Counterblast 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards without any cradle markers and put a cradle marker on it. If you did not choose, draw 1 card. So it's some more cradle marker support, which is nice. It can also be a draw engine, which also is pretty good. Now, is the Counterblast 1 worth it? I'm not too sure, but hey, it's another one to create some cradle markers, but it also has the ability to continue to Vanguard to rearguard circle. During your battle, if your opponent has a rearguard with a cradle marker, this unit gets power plus 6k, so it can be a 15k attacker as well. Overall, it's a nice extra option for Gridora for the Cradle Marker deck. It's also generic, so you can splash this in any build if you ever want some extra Cradle Marker support. Now, promo stuff out of the way, let's dive into the actual collab set reveals, and let's first take a look at Touken Ranbu, because that's the set where we actually got support cards revealed. So we saw the right line for the trial deck, and that of course starts with the starter, which is Kashu Kiyomitsu, and of course Kiyomitsu has the standard draw ability if you go second, so there's not really anything to talk about here. But if we go up to the grade 1 of the right line, we see Kashu Kiyomitsu Sento, and Sento has the ability, although when this unit is rode upon by Kashu Kiyomitsu Toku, which is the grade 2, look at the top card of your deck and put the card on the top of your deck or into the soul. Revelation. That's what it is. It's Revelation when it's rode upon by the grade 2. That's nice because you can leave a trigger on top, or maybe a card that you want to draw, or drive check in this case, or you can just put it into the soul and then hopefully get the trigger or the card that you actually need for the turn or for the game. So it's an interesting, nice card that can increase your consistency a little bit. But on top of that, it also has a continuous Record Circle. During your turn, this unit gets power plus 2k. 10k booster. Fine. Then if we go to the grade 2, we see Kashuki Yomitsu Toku, and Toku has the ability Auto. When this unit is rode upon by Kashuki Yomitsu Kiwame, search your deck for up to one Yamato Noko Kami Yasusada, and reveal it and add it to your hand and shuffle your deck. This is basically a 3+1, and I'm already gonna tell you, the card that you're searching for is a grade 2, and it's a beater grade 2, so it's nice. It works with the main game plan of the trial deck, so it's a nice extra consistency engine within the right line. And on top of that, it also has continuous Record Circle. During your turn, this unit gets power plus 2k, so a 12k beater. Not as great as the grade 1, being it 10k booster or attacker. The 12k fine, but probably you won't really gonna play this outside of the right line. Now, of course, we're gonna search this card, so let's take a look at the grade 2 that we're actually searching. So here we have Yamato no Kami Yasusada, and Yasusada has the ability Act on Record Circle. Cost counter plus 1. For this turn, this unit gets power plus 5k. If your Vanguard is Kashuki Yomitsu Kiwame, power plus 10k instead of plus 5. So for one counterblast in the early game can be a 15k attacker, or during the grade 3 and later turns, it becomes a 20k attacker. Now, I'm not too fan about counterblast power skills. I'm being very advocate about this on the channel here, so you know my opinion on this. However, in this particular instance, this isn't all too bad, because for one, as we're going to see, this actually synergizes within the game plan of the deck, so it makes sense. But on top of it, it's not once per turn, so you can just use all the counterblast that you want to actually make this thing a massive beat stick to maybe pressure your opponent into a lot of guard potential, or just win the game outright. So overall, it's a pretty nice card that synergizes with the main gimmick. And to understand that gimmick, let's take a look at the grade 3, which is Kashuki Yomitsu Kiwame. And Kiyomitsu Kiwame has the ability Continuous Vanguard Circle. During your turn, if you do not have any face-up cards in your damage zone, this unit gets power plus 10k. So this is what I meant by the counterblast power skill isn't all too bad. It forces this ability off. It's basically Altmile, but then the Touken Ranbu version of it, which is fine. That at the very least allows you to get more value out of that counterblast, because not only does it give power to the grade 2 rearguard, it also then gives the Vanguard power in this particular case, turning it into a 23k beater, which is overall nice for just a trial deck build. But then on top of that, it also has the ability Act on Vanguard Circle once a turn, cost Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, look at the top card of your deck, put it to the top or bottom of your deck, and draw one card. So now, where we had the Revelation skill when we wrote the grade 2 on top of the grade 1, now we actually have just Oracle Thinking skills where we can check the top, leave it on top or bottom, and then draw a card, thus manipulating the cards that we're going to draw. Which is actually pretty good to have more consistency on your entire plays. So overall, as a ride line, it's not the most explosive one that we've seen so far with other ride lines, but overall it just looks to be a very consistent engine where we get to our pieces, we can manipulate the deck a little bit, and deck manipulation always looks a bit underwhelming until you see it in practice, and we then understand, oh wait, manipulating the deck in a game like Vanguard where we have triggers is actually way stronger than you think. So I'm very curious of how the rest of the trial deck is gonna pan out, because we only saw the right line and one grade 2 support card, so there's still more cards to talk about or to discover. Talking about which, we also saw this. These are all the cards of the trial deck in their Touken Ranbu rare versions. I don't know about you, but oh my god, are these gorgeous. I definitely cannot wait to get my hands on these cards. However, knowing the secondary market, my wallet is definitely not gonna enjoy this one. But of course, these aren't the only news that we got for the collab sets. We also got information for the Monster Strike collab set. So let's dive into that one. However, this is going to be a bit quick because we don't have actual card information, just product reveals and image artwork itself. So these are the image artworks that we got for the upcoming 2 trial decks for the Monster Strike. So we have this redhead dude with the muscles and all the weapons. I think this guy has seen way too many Gates of Babylon episodes, but hey, I cannot argue with this one. And we also have this spicy redhead demon goat. I don't know what it actually is. As you can tell, I have no clue what Monster Strike actually is, so for me this is the first time that I ever see these artworks. Honestly, I do like the aesthetics of this, and I'm very curious of how these things are gonna play out. From my understanding, they really took the artworks from the game itself, or at least how they are presented within the game with the gacha system. So I'm very curious how that's gonna play out, and this is also a hint to what we're gonna talk about in a minute here. But overall, artwork looks to be pretty sick. I'm probably more of a fan of the redhead demon thing, but who knows, we have to wait to see for the contents of the trial decks to actually give my opinion on which deck or playstyle I'm gonna prefer more. Of course, with the trial deck artworks revealed, we also have the set image itself revealed in the information, and this is the cover art for the set itself for the Monster Strike collab. And within this, we also see the information for the set itself. We see that we're gonna get 71 cards, from which 10 are triple Rs, 13 are double Rs. Interesting enough, we see 2 different over-trigger double Rs. And I'm not so sure if then we also have the over-triggers from the trial deck, if that's going to be something else, or those are just going to be vanilla. I don't know. Does it mean we're going to have 3 different over-triggers, or maybe 4 different over-triggers within this nation? That's actually something that I'm really curious about, because if these nations or these decks are going to get multiple over-triggers to play with, does that mean that the other nations will get future over-triggers as well? Pretty curious about that one. And of course, we see 15 rares and 31 commons. In the parallel slots, we see 81 cards. So we see 10 more cards, which I assume then are probably maybe double version of the same thing. Or we see cards from the starter deck coming, or trial decks being introduced in this set as well. But what we can see here is that we see 2 super secret rares or special secret rares, and then 8 Monster Strike rare, but then also 71 Monster Strike rares. But there is a kanji there's an extra kanji for the one with the 8 versions. I'm not so sure what that kanji means, but I probably assume that that's an extra special version of the Monster Strike rares. But we have to wait and see until we actually see these cards to actually understand what this actually is referring to. That said, we did see 1 image for Monster Strike rares, because here we can see how these Monster Strike rares will look like. And I think they actually look pretty sick with the name on the top of the card instead on the bottom that we're used to. They give a very special feel to them, which honestly, they don't really look like a Vanguard card with a name on the top, which is actually a pretty nice addition to making them pop out or stand out from the rest. But also, as you can see on the left, we see these colored dice, and that's an extra thing that we just learned, is that these dice markers or these power counters will be included in the starter decks or trial decks, and both the counters will be included in one trial deck. Now, this is also the case for the Touken Ranbu trial deck, but they are pink instead of the red that we have for Monster Strike. Now, if we ever going to get these cards or these starter decks in the English format, I don't know if we're gonna get these power counters. It might or might not. It's all just speculation at this point, as we don't even know if we ever gonna get these collab sets to the English format. Now, the final thing that we learned, or at least got teased, is this. This is a set order for the Monster Strike deck, and this is their main gimmick mechanic. And apparently, what we're looking at is the gacha system of the Monster Strike game. This is where you basically are going to pull for the gacha in-game itself. Now, what I also understood from initial translations is that it actually is a gacha system or a gacha mechanic within the whole Monster Strike collab set. So probably the main gimmick of the Monster Strike set is that it has some gacha system in their playstyle. Now, how this actually works and how this actually will function is something that we're going to discover next week. So right now we only know this, that it's some type of wacky gacha mechanic, and honestly, I don't know what to think about it. Like, I like RNG system in games, as they are random and they're always really fun, as you don't know what's going to come out of it. But it all depends on how it's played out. Like, if it's too excessive or too much, it's kind of annoying, as you have no complete agency about it. But if it's a good amount, then I'm completely fine with it. So I'm very curious what we're going to see next week when they finally are going to reveal the gimmick that's behind this set order. And with that said, that's basically also everything that we've got today. Like, there was a lot of different information points. Like, we have multiple cards, multiple different products that got some extra information on top of it. And next week is gonna be as eventful because, as I just stated, we're gonna get the reveal around this gacha mechanic for Monster Strike. But on top of that, we're gonna get 2 different ride lines for the Touken Ranbu set. We also gonna, I believe, 4 different new cards for Touken Ranbu and some extra information on top of that. So there is a lot of extra information gonna be thrown around, but that basically is everything for today. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of these new cards for Touken Ranbu, the information that we got for these sets, as well as the extra cards that we got revealed for Dark States, Dragon Empire, and the V promos that are for Aqua Force and Mega Colony. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, this video has been brought to you by lovely patrons over at patreon.com/FranklinInsider. You guys are amazing. If you want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply go to patreon.com/FranklinInsider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one!